All right, it's 11:02. Hello and welcome. I'm Ngani and Ndimbie, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to AMPT. This is the Drive Electric PA Coalition celebration of National Drive Electric Week. This is the second in our series of 4 presentations, and we're really glad that you can join us. We're seeing that the numbers of participants are climbing, so I'm glad you are able to get logged on. I hope you can hear us. Today's presentation is going to focus on private businesses. We'll focus on the benefits and basics of electric vehicles. After some brief introductory slides, you'll hear from organizations that have made a commitment to electrification. We want today's presentation to be as interactive as possible. In order to ask questions on this platform, please use the chat function. The icon looks like a little conversation bubble, and select all panelists in the drop-down before sending your question. The 2 photos you see here on this slide are myself and my co-host Colton Brown. Colton will share in presenting the introductory slides and has led the planning for this great week of programming. Colton and I also share in the co-facilitation of the Drive Electric PA Coalition, DEPA as we call it. It includes state agencies, electric car companies, charging companies, our wonderful Clean Cities organizations, utilities, environmental organizations, and other stakeholders. Today's presentation has a packed agenda, but before we go into the panel presentations, Colton and I will try and kind of create a sort of base level of understanding, offering some information on electrification trends, some basics, some details on the available incentives. And the good news is, to start off our basics on electric vehicle adoption, is that we're seeing pretty steady growth in adoption of electric vehicles. So we're seeing growth in annual vehicle sales. In blue, you see plug-in hybrid electric vehicle sales, and in orange, you see battery electric vehicle sales. And they're going steadily up, and especially you can see battery electric vehicles. One of the conditions that we know enables an increase in the sale of battery electric vehicles is a strong network of electric vehicle chargers. This map shows that all of the available public non-Tesla charging stations in Pennsylvania, and over 1,700 plugs are available to the traveling public. Vehicle manufacturers have also stepped up to say that they're electrifying a wide range of models. In the coming years, consumers should expect to be able to see a wide diversity of hybrid and electric vehicle models, types that developed and marketed. So it'll really increase the number of businesses that can make use of these various types of vehicles. We, the state, have also made a commitment to electrification. Our statewide goal for reduction of greenhouse gases will require a reduction in emissions from the transportation sector as well. Governor Wolf has launched a Lead by Example initiative in which the state agencies will replace 25% of their passenger vehicle fleets with electric vehicles by 2025. Colton will tell you a little bit more about other state initiatives, electric vehicle basics, and some available incentives. Colton?
Great, thank you, Ndimbie. So another big commitment for electric vehicles in Pennsylvania came earlier this summer. Pennsylvania, along with 14 other states and Washington, D.C., signed the Medium and Heavy-Duty Zero-Emission Vehicle Memorandum of Understanding. This document sets a goal that 30% of new medium and heavy-duty vehicle sales will be zero-emission vehicles by 2030, and 100% of these sales will be zero-emission by 2050. So why is Pennsylvania so interested in electric vehicles? Well, they provide significant benefit to Pennsylvanians. One of these benefits is that the vehicle owner themselves pays significantly less to power and maintain the vehicle. electric vehicles typically cost 50 to 70% less to operate. I see we have gotten a number of new participants recently, so just a quick reminder, if you can open up your chat in the lower right-hand corner by clicking the chat bubble and select your chat recipient as all panelists and submit any comments or questions that you have as we're presenting, that'll make it the easiest for us to respond to you. So electric vehicles also cause about 70% fewer life cycle air emissions than gasoline vehicles. And as we transition to lower emission electricity sources, electric vehicle emissions will get even lower. Cleaner air means healthier Pennsylvanians and a more efficient economy. Speaking of the economy, Pennsylvania is uniquely poised to benefit from electric vehicle growth. A recent study from Advanced Energy Economy found that Pennsylvania will experience net job gains from vehicle electrification. So many common questions we get about electric vehicles relate to charging. We all know how to fill up a gas tank, but charging a car can seem foreign and complicated. Well, a primary difference between fueling and charging is that there are different levels of charging. All electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles come with a cord that connects the vehicle to a standard wall outlet. This is called level 1 charging and provides about 4 miles of vehicle range per hour of charging. Many plug-in hybrid owners find this level of charging sufficient for charging overnight at home, since plug-in hybrids have smaller battery packs. Level 2 charging, though, is the most common charging choice for fully electric vehicle owners, as well as public stations and workplace charging. Level 2 charging provides 10 to 25 miles of vehicle range per hour of charging, depending on the vehicle and the amperage of the electric circuit. DC fast charging is the fastest type of charging and is used most commonly during longer distance travel. Depending on the vehicle and the charging capacity, a DC fast charging station can provide anywhere between 80 and 300 miles of driving range in a half hour. The charging plugs themselves are largely standardized, so most vehicles can use most charging stations. The primary exception to this is that only Tesla vehicles can use Tesla charging stations. So even with a good knowledge of charging, many people will cite range anxiety as a concern about electric vehicle ownership. Most new electric vehicles have a range over 200 miles, but it is still natural to be concerned about unexpected long travel or other complications. Well, research shows that the best way to conquer that range anxiety is to own an electric vehicle. When you start every morning with a full charge and you download a charging station locator resource for backup, most people find little reason to be worried. So as you probably know, electric vehicles often have a higher purchase price, at least for now. One way to help offset that cost is with the federal tax incentive of up to $7,500 per vehicle. That is not available on GM or Tesla anymore, though. Pennsylvania is also helping to make the transition to electric vehicles affordable. One of our Driving PA Forward programs is a rebate for level 2 charging stations. You can receive up to $4,500 per plug or 70% of project costs, whichever is less, for level 2 public charging stations, and up to $3,500 per plug or 50% of project costs for non-public charging stations. That would include employee, fleet, multi-unit residential buildings, etc. Anything that's not usable by the public during most hours of the week. DEP also manages the Alternative Fuel Incentive Grant Program, which can provide funding for the incremental cost of electric fleet vehicles and or fund charging infrastructure. This is a competitive grant program and is currently for applications until December. I believe it's December 11th. That's open until applications. It then generally opens every spring. This year was later due to obvious reasons. It was delayed, but generally it opens every spring with a couple due dates throughout the year. Lastly, if you're looking to replace older Class 4 through 8 diesel vehicles, you can pursue funding from the on-road rebate or truck and transit bus programs through Driving PA Forward, which will be opening soon. Visit the Driving PA Forward webpage for more information. That can be easily found with a Google search for Driving PA Forward. The two programs I just referenced are the blue $16 million and the orange $29 million. They can provide a fixed amount per vehicle for replacing those older diesel vehicles that do require scrappage. So to summarize this introductory presentation, there are many ways that businesses can prepare for and encourage faster adoption of electric vehicles. The three obvious choices that we think of are installing customer charging stations, installing employee charging stations, and transitioning your own fleet to electric. Our speakers will cover these strategies in more detail, as well as some other less obvious ones, such as planning for an electric vehicle future. As you can see from this graph, electric vehicle batteries continue to become more affordable and will eventually make electric vehicles the obvious choice for most vehicle applications. We can all help prepare our communities for this transition and accelerate electric vehicle growth so that we realize the full benefits sooner. Now we will hear from our business speakers about their experiences with electric vehicle initiatives. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave Landis of Epic Metals. One moment. There you go, Dave. You should be presenting for that.
Thank you. I would like to thank Ngani and Colton with the PA Department of Environmental Protection for holding this webinar. Epic Metals was founded in the suburbs of Pittsburgh 52 years ago. Currently, Epic employs 140 people. Epic manufactures roof and floor deck ceiling systems used to construct buildings nationally. Typical installations are in arenas, airports, convention centers, college and university projects, hotels, libraries, medical facilities, museums, schools, and stadiums. If you're a believer in science, then this quotation is appropriate. The sunlight striking the Earth's surface in just 1 hour delivers enough energy to power the world economy for 1 year. You can probably tell by now that I believe in humans' ability to change climate. The health of the planet is dependent on the actions of governments, companies, and people. This is one of the main reasons that Epic Metals is committed to reducing the emissions that it can control. Epic's solar panels have generated enough electricity to drive the circumference of the Earth 158 times, a distance of 3,934,358 miles. Beginning in 2010, Epic started to put its toes in the water of producing solar energy. The first solar energy project was a small 2.1 kW roof installation. Our largest installation has over 1,000 solar panels and covers a half an acre. Our investments in solar energy have increased in almost every year for the past decade. We have one manufacturing facility that has run entirely on solar energy for 41 months. 2 of our locations have charging stations for electric or plug-in hybrid vehicles used by our employees and visitors. Through August of 2020, the use of the electric vehicle charging stations has displaced the use of 5,649 gallons of gasoline, estimated to have reduced 109,594 pounds of CO2, the equivalent to planting 1,405 trees. Of course, the reduction in pollution is even greater since our employees also charge at home and at other charging stations. We use this page to demonstrate what 5,649 gallons of displaced gasoline would look like. It would fill a tank 14 foot 5 inches high by 8 foot 6 inches in diameter. Epic Metals provides its employees with a cash incentive to purchase or lease electric or plug-in cars. Our incentive follows the federal tax credit guide for tax credits based on battery size. So for a 10 kilowatt hour or more battery, when an employee purchases a new vehicle, they would be entitled to $2,000, or a below 10 kilowatt hour battery vehicle, they would be entitled to a $1,000 payment. And this also applies to used vehicles that our employees purchase or lease. Currently, 5% of our 140 employees have made the transition to driving electric or plug-in hybrids. I believe the national average of people driving electric or plug-ins currently is around 1%. Epic does charge for the costs of the electricity used at its charging stations. The utility cost is 9 cents per kilowatt hour, and Epic adds 1 cent per kilowatt hour to recover some of the installation and maintenance costs of the stations. My personal experience, I drive a fully electric car, and through September 16th, I've driven 17,202 miles. The kilowatt hours of electricity used is 6,461 kilowatt hours. And my price per kilowatt hour of 10 cents per kilowatt hour, the energy cost has been $646. The cost per mile of electricity is 0.038 cents. Comparing that to a similar gasoline car that would average 22 miles per gallon. Again, this driving the same distance, the gallons of gasoline required would be 782, and an average price per gallon of $2.75 would give a total cost of gasoline of $2,150. The cost of gasoline per mile would be 0.125 cents. The saving by driving an electric car has been $1,504. The cost of electricity used is 30% of the cost of gasoline. Typical costs that we have found for the installation of a level 2 charging station are the charging station itself is approximately $4,500. The electrician to do the wiring and the installation of the charging station for us has been $1,225. And the concrete foundation for a charging station has been $1,200. So the cost before the PA rebate has been $6,925, and the state rebate that we've been entitled to at 50% is $3,462 reduction, bringing our total final cost to $3,463. Epic's charging stations are considered private charging stations by Pennsylvania, since public stations require at least 80 hours of weekly public access. Epic stations are in parking lots where gates are closed when the company is closed. Typically, Epic parking lots are open 50 to 60 hours per week. The state rebate is limited to $3,500 for private charging stations. In summary, Epic encourages the use of electric and plug-in vehicles to reduce the climate impacts of our company and employees. When we achieve having 50% of our employees driving electric or plug-in hybrid cars, I project that we will displace 33,600 gallons of gasoline and reduce CO2 emissions of 651,860 pounds per year. There is only one Earth for our children, grandchildren, and future generations. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dave. That was a great presentation, and thank you for covering what your company is doing to encourage electric vehicles. I know it's definitely unique for a regular business to have an incentive for its employees to purchase electric vehicles. So if anyone in attendance has questions regarding that, definitely feel free to put that in the chat, and we'll get back to Dave later with any questions that you have. We're now going to move on to Dale, who represents an employer from more rural parts of the state to talk about some things that they've done regarding electric vehicles. Thank you, Dave. Dale, sorry. Looks like you're currently muted, Dale.
How are we now?
There you go.
I thought I hit the button, but I guess I must have missed it. So I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. This is fairly new to us. We are a small organization in rural northeastern Pennsylvania, but you know, we need to get into it just as badly as everybody else. So I just wanted to start with. Where are we here? Okay. Just a brief introduction, who we are, electric vehicles. We're in commercial real estate, one of our businesses, so we wanted to touch on things like that. We also have a trucking fleet, so some fleet benefits and how we went about getting our stations installed. So who are we? My name again is Dale Kitchnevsky. I'm the Business Development Officer for the Austin Group of Companies. So our companies include Holcomb Energy, Eastern Freight Systems, Eastern Freight Brokerage, Oso Wash, OBX Property Management, and Piccadilly US. Holcomb is primarily involved in the oil field where we're located in northeastern Pennsylvania. Our organization is located in the heart of the Marcellus natural gas area. So Holcomb specializes in oil field service, water transport, vacuum trucks, winch trucks, flatbed, hot shot, frac tanks, roll-off containers, and waste handling. Basically anything that would involve transportation of anything in the gas field, we do that. Eastern Freight Systems has a sister company, Eastern Freight Brokerage, so we take, loads and broker those out to carriers that may not have access to particular customers. As far as Eastern goes, we're a third-party logistics transportation company. We operate shuttle programs. We have a regional program where we transport dry goods throughout the northeast. We also have a long-haul division that hauls steel and other materials from northeastern Pennsylvania to Texas and the Midwest. Oso Wash is tailored to the gas industry as well. I mean, we do have a truck wash here that does exterior, but typically what we do at our facility here would be tank cleanings. That would be either frac tanks or truck tanks. Our famous saying is, if it fits through the door, we'll wash it. We do also sell tires and some truck stop items here in our showroom. I'm going to skip over OBX because that's what we're going to primarily focus on, but Piccadilly, we also operate franchise. OBX is a commercial space organization. We purchase properties and rent that space to retailers. OBX is where we wanted to capitalize the EV charging network. So let me just flip slides here. Before we get into too much into that, so just the electric vehicles, as everybody's has touched on or will touch on, they are the way of the future. So the U.S. Department of Energy said in 2018 about 11% of petroleum is imported. So by making the switch from conventional gas and petroleum-powered vehicles, we're going to increase our energy security. So 75% of petroleum consumption in the United States is from transportation. So, and as demand and production increases for electrical vehicles, acquisition costs will decrease and put more of them on the road. So we need to be out in the forefront and have these stations in place so we can be a part of this. So back to OBX, like I said, we're a commercial real estate organization. We have shopping centers and things like that where we'd like to have these charging stations in every one of them. So our president and CEO of our company recently bought our company's first electric vehicle earlier this year. That kind of inspired him to want to get these charging stations at our retail spaces. So, pardon me, lost my place here. So benefits of the charging stations at commercial real estate facilities are increasing traffic through retail centers. As we get more electric vehicles in the country and manufactured, the way of the gas station is going to change. You know, years ago, and currently, that's a bad analogy, but, you know, we're going through a gas station right now, you know, we fill up and we go on our way. As of right now, it's not as easy to do that, so these charging stations are better suited at a facility where, you know, the person can leave the vehicle for a specified period of time, either while they're shopping, you know, doing whatever they can. We're going to give them more time to allow for the vehicle to charge. So a shopping center is a great spot for these. So in the apps that the charging stations, the charging apps and stuff allow you to track the status of your vehicle charging. So if you're in shopping, you know, check on the ad, or I'm sorry, the app. You can see, you know, how much longer you have before you're charged, and, you know, can allow people to plan their days better. Anyway, so it's also, you know, right now the cost of an electric vehicle is a little more expensive than what a traditional vehicle is. So at least for the time being, you're going to attract a more upscaled customer, you know, so typically these people are going to have more money to spend. So that's a great benefit there. Additionally, these charging stations are great for anywhere traveling. We discussed anxiety of not having a charging station, but if we put these, you know, at retail facilities, at hotels or parking garages, it'll kind of eliminate a lot of that anxiety. That and at least in our facilities, our facility is open 24/7. It is located at one of our shopping centers, but it's a secure place to charge. You know, there's closed circuit television, so you're on camera. it's in a lit area, and it's in a populated area, so it's not like, there's out behind a building somewhere in the dark charging the building. So we want to offer our customers that 24/7 but secure charging. As far as benefits for our tenants, so I'm sorry, I lost my place here. So like I said, it allows the customers a safe charging location. It's going to attract more modern and progressive tenants, drive higher occupancy, and ultimately, hopefully, create a greater tenant retention. And for us, we'd like to be established as a green leader, as a small company as we are. So it's a great opportunity for that. Not only that, future return on investment and network expansion. Now, for our particular charge station, our electric company, we purchased it at about 6 cents a kilowatt hour. We sell at about 22 cents a kilowatt hour. But this is the future of transportation and mobility. And these the charging stations can also help meet your green initiatives like the LEED certifications. As far as fleet ownership, so like I said, a large part of our business is trucking and transportation. So where it can work today, especially for us, is shuttle programs, jockey, regional, final mile delivery service, like the 500-mile round trip. So also customers that desire to get zero emissions now. So a part of our trucking costs, one of the largest, or the largest cost for us is fuel consumption. Between driver payroll and fuel costs, it costs our trucks about $1.25 per mile to operate. That's about 50 cents in payroll, and then another 80 cents in fuel consumption. So just by switching from a conventional petroleum-powered vehicle to an electric vehicle, the savings would be outstanding, and we can use those fuel savings in switching over to electric vehicles, allowing for the opportunity to offer drivers higher wages and attract better employees, and offer transportation discounts and savings on the customers. So the process for us, when we got our charging station, it was very, very simple. So there's a bunch of different companies that you can choose. No matter what company you choose, they make the process very simple. They collect basic information. They connect you with an installer, coordinate the install, coordinate the grant paperwork. I think the costs for these stations are all about the same, at least for the ones that we researched here. But a very, very easy process. Any company you choose makes the process so easy. I apologize. The president of our company was supposed to do this, and he had a prior engagement, so I wasn't 110% prepared, so I'm stumbling a little bit, and I apologize. So just a few things that we found interesting were there are about 115,000 gas stations in the United States and about 68,000 public chargers, of which 10,860 are fast chargers. And we can read the rest of those there, but I guess just my big takeaway on this is, the benefits in real estate for, allowing greater traffic for customers, better and longer tenants, and just the green brand on your business. And just gas stations are going to be changed through all this. And that's about it, guys.
Thank you, Dale. If you can just mute there, Dale. I think a little bit of feedback. Thank you. We do have a question or two. We will get questions to our panelists at the end, so please hang tight. We're just going to send presenter over here to Steve, who's going to talk to us about what IKEA is doing with electric vehicles. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Let me put my share my screen here. Whoa. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see that. I'm going to share a little bit about our journey and what we're doing. First of all, electric vehicles comes at the end of a long line of IKEA sustainability efforts, including we own a ton of wind turbines. We've got solar panels in most of our stores. We practice sustainable forestry, LED light bulbs, vegetarian options, single-use plastic bags. So this is really kind of part and parcel of what we do at IKEA. So it should come as no surprise that we have very ambitious electrification goals. Let's see here. And these are the goals. We want to be 25% electric or zero emission home delivery by 2020. That's this year. And 100% electric zero emission by 2025. We're going to start out in the United States with New York and Los Angeles. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those, and then we're going to be 100% zero emission by 2025 in North America. Like I say, it's part of our global goal. So we are definitely coming to Pennsylvania. The home delivery space, which I'm going to talk about, is just one of the areas that we're working on. We are also working on electrifying our yard trucks. One of my colleagues is working on that, and I have another colleague that's working on customers and coworker charging. Most of our stores today have customer charging available, and we're working to expand that. But for this presentation, we'll do a deeper dive into specifically home delivery. Okay. And home delivery should really be, it should really be a piece of cake, right? We're talking about less range anxiety for home delivery vehicles, long overnight dwell times, because we can really only deliver between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., which allows us to take advantage of cheaper level 2 charging and lower overnight charging rates. And these are the vehicles that are tooling around, the neighborhoods probably need it the most. Unfortunately, one of the problems with electrifying our home delivery is that IKEA is a furniture store, and not unlike most retailers outside of, let's say, Amazon, we don't own our own fleets. We don't own our trucks. We use third-party logistics carriers to perform the final mile for us. And oftentimes, those carriers don't own the trucks either. They're owned by independent contractor drivers or contract carrier drivers who actually own the vehicles themselves. Additionally, we don't own most of the warehouses and distribution centers in the markets that we service. So we rely heavily on those same third-party logistics companies to provide those services to us in those markets. So so the real estate in most markets that we have around the United States are really the stores themselves. The electric truck environment, I'm not going to go too far into this. There are very few OEMs. Most of them are startups. The technology is changing rapidly, and there's a certain amount there's a lot of risk involved in electrifying at this stage of the game. What we've done, because the drivers are the ones that own the vehicles, we've tried very hard to create a model that de-risks those drivers from taking on those risks. So what we don't want individual drivers to buy electric vehicles specifically for IKEA, and then if something were to happen, they're kind of stuck with a 5 or 6 year, lease or or financing payments on electric vehicles. So what we've done is we've developed a rental model with third-party ownership of that vehicle to de-risk the independent contractors, and then allow the vehicles to kind of stick with IKEA, even if we change logistics providers, which we call TSPs for this presentation. And we can also, what that also does is reduce the risk for the rental company as well. So I'll show you what that model looks like and walk you through it a little bit. This is the IKEA rental model. We are the brand, and we are going to provide a utilization guarantee for the rental company, which means that we are going to guarantee the rental company that we will use those vehicles 100% of the time. So that takes away most of the risk from the rental company's point of view. The rental company will be the ones that interface with the OEMs, which are down here, and so we become kind of OEM agnostic in terms of the vehicle. The actual lease or rental agreement from the drivers will be directly with the rental company, and so it won't involve IKEA, and it won't involve our logistics company either. So it kind of maintains that independent contractor environment while still allowing access to electric vehicles by the independent contractors themselves. Okay. And the infrastructure is another tough one. So because we use third-party logistics carriers for our infrastructure, for most of our distribution infrastructure, those are not possibilities to install charging infrastructure at those distribution facilities. And at the moment, the third-party carriers are unlikely to want to install charging infrastructure at their own locations. So we're really limited to our own real estate in these urban areas, which, like I said before, is mostly the stores, right? So what we've done is we are going to install charging infrastructure at the stores, but this comes at but what we have to do to kind of facilitate distribution is to kind of move the goods flow. So in other words, instead of sending our goods to a third-party logistics warehouse somewhere and then distributing the goods from there, we have to then distribute our goods from a storefront. But our stores are, they're furniture stores, and so they're not distribution hubs. So in LA, what we're doing is we are retrofitting our store in Covina to perform distribution capabilities, which means that we are building loading docks on the side of the store, which means we're installing high-speed automated picking inside the store to facilitate that goods flow, and we're rerouting our goods from our main distribution center away from our third-party logistics provider to our stores, and I'll show you kind of what that looks like. Here's a map of LA. And our goods today come from our distribution center in Tejon, California, which is about 80 miles north of Los Angeles today. And they are shipped in to our third-party warehouse located in Fullerton, where they're distributed around LA today with gasoline vehicles. What we're going to do is we're going to change that goods flow to go to our West Covina store, which will be retrofitted for distribution activities, and then distribute using electric vehicles from West Covina. But because of the range and because of the sprawl of LA, we're also going to have to install charging infrastructure and distribute from our Burbank store and our Costa Mesa store to make sure that we've covered all of LA. So it's a lot of effort to provide electric vehicle delivery in places like LA or similarly situated cities where we don't have a distribution center. Today, we are where we are now is we've already ordered our trucks for New York City. They will be here in December. Our rental partner is Fluid. We've agreed to certain pricing changes in New York City to accommodate the extra cost of the electric vehicles. We're installing chargers in our Staten Island facility. We're installing chargers in Burbank, and we're participating in Southern California Edison's, they're the utility in Southern California, infrastructure program in Covina and Costa Mesa to help us install charging infrastructure there. And we've added the electric vehicle question to all of our home delivery RFPs. So if you want to do business with IKEA, you're going to have to step up to the plate and offer electric vehicle services. And we're working with like-minded companies like IKEA to create zero-emission delivery zones in New York and LA. So to kind of show proof of concept for those two cities, and then hopefully we'll continue to roll out across the country. Thank you. And
great, thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you all to our speakers. We're now going to move into question and answer. I know we've already gotten a few questions, which we will get to first. Please continue to add any additional questions that you thought of that you'd like our panel here to address. First question we got a little bit ago, for any of you or all of you, have you looked at your mix of electricity, who you're buying your electricity from, so that you make sure that the electric vehicles are running on renewable power? I guess we can go in order. Dave, is that something? Well, I guess you were probably running your own solar power, right?
We have been adding solar power to all of our facilities for the past 10 years, and that is our plan, is to continue to add solar power so that the electricity demands that are added by our charging stations are being primarily supplied by the sun.
Yep, great. And Steve, is that something that you've gotten into?
Well, you know, we have solar panels on most of our stores and distribution centers today, but today most of them are, you know, net metering, because we installed those before we installed the charging station. So we have to start moving those over. So in new facilities, we'll connect the renewables to the chargers, and we're going to try to retrofit some of these so that we can, you know, get the maximum impact out of our renewable power generation.
Sure. Do you in general try to purchase your renewable from the grid, from renewable sources?
Well, we typically, you know, we get the power from the grid because we do use quite a bit of power. We try to buy renewable sources wherever possible. Our purchasing group is they've got sustainability commitments of their own that they work on, so they are working on that as well.
Okay, great. We had a question regarding the reference to 5 or 6 million electric vehicles on the road in 2019. I believe in the United States it was somewhere in the 2 to 3 million range. This is off the top of my head, so it may not be 100% accurate. Therefore, I guess that the 5 to 6 million was referencing a larger region than the United States. And Ngani, do you have do you want to go over any of the additional questions?
Sure. Actually, before I launch into questions, I did also want to mention that we've had a lot of cost comparisons about electric vehicles, and we've definitely, each of our panelists have discussed the savings involved. I did want to specifically mention and just reiterate for anyone who didn't recognize that there is an alternative fuels tax that should be paid by any electric vehicle owner. I'm going to drop some information into the chat about it, but it's a tax that's paid by the kilowatt hour used by your plug-in hybrid or electric vehicle, and it's pretty low, but the important thing is that that money goes towards the maintenance of roads and bridges. So, for example, it's about $69 if you drive the average 13,000 miles a year. And again, that goes towards maintenance of roads and bridges. And otherwise, an EV owner would not contribute to that. So that's the way that we do things. That's the way that that's done here. So just make sure that if you are buying vehicles or own vehicles for your business's fleet already, that you are paying your alternative fuels tax. But another question I wanted to offer to our panelists, or a question that I want to offer towards our panelists, is just asking about perception. I'd love to hear from our panelists about what they've understood the perception of their employees to be, how the employees have felt about charging availability or about the use of electric vehicles, just whether that transition has been smooth, or if there's been any challenges to that. We could start with Steve, if you're.
Sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's certainly not smooth, right? I mean, the ownership problem in the United States for medium duty trucks is a major hurdle. And so how to finance those trucks, I think, becomes important. I think a lot of people are focused on the OEMs specifically, and we try to be agnostic in that response. So there were, so just trying to get the vehicles in the hands of independent contractor drivers who are already heavily invested in their own vehicle, that don't have the credit profile to buy these trucks, who are typically buying trucks on the secondary market instead of in the as a first life buyer of a vehicle, which kind of throws off all these TCO calculations. So I think for all of those reasons, it makes it who owns the trucks and where they, how do they get financed, I think is probably our biggest hurdle. And then the infrastructure hurdle is gigantic too, because we don't own the logistics network that does our deliveries for us. So we're having to, support that from the bottom up and from the top down at the same time, and say, we're gonna take the lead on that, and we're gonna retrofit our stores and move our distribution flows and stuff. So it is a monumental effort at the moment. But I think that every time somebody does this, it gets that much easier, and eventually our logistics partners are going to get on board, and they're going to start offering this to their regular customers and put it on the menu, and that's really where we want it to be.
And Dave?
Yeah, I think we have found that of our 7 employees that have made the transition, some of them are now even on their second plug-in hybrid, and they have all been delighted by their experience. I would say for sure that it has been positive, and none of our 7 employees that are currently driving electric or plug-in hybrids would even remotely consider going back to gasoline vehicles. To offset that tiny tax that you were describing earlier, the one advantage of a fully electric battery vehicle is you do not have any emissions inspections, so that does save you some money by not having to have an annual emissions inspection, at least in Pittsburgh, where I'm based. Also, the brakes, because they're regenerative, and that when you're using your brakes, you're recharging your battery so that you're not wearing down the discs on your brakes, so your brakes tend to last a lot longer. And other things that you will never have is you'll never have an oil change. You're never going to have to change spark plugs or a tune-up. So there are many savings in addition to the fuel savings of owning either a plug-in hybrid or a fully electric vehicle.
Yep, definitely. Myriad of benefits there. Not sure if there's anything else to be added, but thank you for those responses. And then I know that, Dale, you talked about, I think, using networked chargers. I don't know if you had any insights about the information that is provided to you as the operator of the charger and the host, any benefits of that as you've seen it?
unfortunately, I don't have a lot of that info readily available. Like Matt, our CEO, would have most of that information. But unfortunately, he had a previous engagement, so I apologize. I don't have that info available.
Yep, that's fine.
Great. This is Colton. One other quick question that we have here is how many companies are producing heavy-duty trucks for sale? When the reference heavy-duty truck can encompass a couple things. If you're referencing tractor trailers, I'm pretty sure there's a number of them in pilot studies, but they may not be available for regular sale yet. There are a number when it comes to school buses, box trucks, things like that. There are vehicles that are out there for sale. As Steve kind of mentioned, they are still early. There are many that are in testing, development, pilots, projects that will become much more widely available over the next several years. Another quick question here, level 1 charging at home. So level 1 charging is literally a regular wall outlet. Electric vehicle can charge off of just plugging into an outdoor outlet, an outlet in your garage, just like anything else can plug in. Level 2 charging would be from a 220 or a 240 volt plug, kind of like a dryer plug. Now generally dryer plugs are like 220 volt at about 16, 20 amps, something like that. Usually for an electric vehicle, you'll want a higher amperage, somewhere in the 30 to 40 range, but it's the exact same concept. Okay. Volvo is going to be releasing a Class 8 electric truck in Q1 of next year. So great, thank you for that heads up. We're approaching time. We do have a couple more webinars this week. If any of them interest you, feel free to check that out. Our speakers here can put their email in the chat in case any of you have questions and would like to follow up with them. I'll do the same. Is there any other final thoughts you'd like to add, Ngani?
No, just to thank all of our presenters for their wonderful presentations. And yes, just to remind everyone that we've got public presentations on Thursday and a fleet manager presentation coming up as well. And please spread the word to those who you know, because the content will be just as great as what you've heard today.
Great, thank you all for joining. So like I mentioned, we're going to stick around for a couple of minutes just to put our info in the chat, potentially answer a couple last minute questions in the chat as well. But thank you all for joining us. We hope you learned a lot, and please follow up with any of our speakers or Ngani and myself with any additional questions we didn't have a chance to answer. Thank you.